So, shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yeah, please.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurvilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namne. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Bachani Nirvisheshunyavadi Paschatishthani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Vancha Kalpataruvesya Kripa Sindhubhevya Patnam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, while I can improve this PPT graphically in multiple ways, but I've just got the content for now, so that we can discuss the content.
No, it's fine. Graphically is not mandatory. It's more important to get the message. So you're
right.
fine.
So I'm just doing a quick recap first as to what all we have done so far. So we started out with the nature of bhakti, which is where we got to know that Lord is rasa, bhakti is independent, the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. These are the topics that we discussed in detail, and other, wonderful Vaishnavas have already presented on these topics in detail. Bhakti does not depend on purity or faith. Then we looked at all these steps in the bhakti: Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. So we have done up to Ruchi. Asakti, Bhava, and Prema are getting completed today. Up to Ruchi, we have completed already. We looked at 5 kinds of klesha, which are coming due to pap and punya, which also makes very clear understanding that we just don't have to get rid of papas or sins. It is also punyas which are, keeping us here in this material world. If you have finished all your sins and you still have some pious reactions left, you can still come. You'll still come back to the material world, and you will stay in the material world. You'll maybe go to higher planetary systems and then come back again. So it is also mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita that bhakti helps you nullify both good and bad reactions. So avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, this is what we discussed. And then comes bhajan kriya. In bhajan kriya, so again going back, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and then we are at bhajan kriya now. In bhajan kriya, we discussed 2 kinds of bhajans, Anishtha and Nishtha. In Anishtha bhajan, what happens when somebody is doing Anishtha without Nishtha bhajan, unsteady bhajan? What happens is, why does he do that? So there's Utsahamai, sometimes out of just, out of, some Utsaha which comes and the person does it, and then Utsaha goes down and doesn't do it. Dhanataral, sporadic endeavor, sometimes. Vyuda Vikalpa, indecision. Vishay Sangara, struggle with Maya. Niyamakshama, Tarangarangini, enjoying the waves. So sometimes he enjoys, sometimes he is not enjoying. So this is unsteady bhajan. Then comes steady bhajan, and then comes Anarth Nivriti stage, Nishtha and Ruchi. So all of this you've done. Now, something very special about Ruchi is you are having taste for the bhajan. So bhajan is the center, not Lord yet so much. You are more attracted towards the bhajan. तो भजन जो होता है आपको अब जो आप डिवोशनल प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो उस प्रैक्टिस में टेस्ट टाइम लग जाता है. एंड देन देयर इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ अ ब्राह्मण बॉय गिवन इन द रुचि वेयर इट इज सेड दैट लाइक अ ब्राह्मण बॉय who has now practiced daily reading scriptures, and now he's automatically having a taste for reading scriptures, and it is not that he's pulling himself into that अपने पुल करके कुछ और करना चाहता है, खेलना चाहता है, लेकिन फिर पढ़ने बैठ रहा है, ऐसा नहीं है. तो यहाँ पर रुचि में ऑलरेडी भजन में टेस्ट आ गया है, तो वो भजन को बहुत अच्छी तरह करता है और टेस्ट करता है. अब आसक्ति में क्या हो रहा है? आसक्ति में पैराडाइम शिफ्ट हो गया है. आसक्ति में जैसे रुचि में भजन वाज द ऑब्जेक्ट, आसक्ति में लॉर्ड इज द ऑब्जेक्ट. सो रुचि में भजन भी ऑब्जेक्ट था, लॉर्ड भी ऑब्जेक्ट थे, लेकिन भजन मोर प्रोपोर्शन में ऑब्जेक्ट था, लेकिन आसक्ति में लॉर्ड इज इन द ग्रेटर प्रोपोर्शन.
That's something that you ought to mention. That's what I was thinking, because it's not like in Ruchi the Lord is not at the center.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Because when you say that Nadhanam Najanam na Sundarim Kavitam Jagadisha Kame Mama Janmani Janmanishre Bhavatat Bhakti Rahit, it's not just bhakti, it's Bhavatat Bhakti, no? So both the Lord and the object, but the proportion is more for the bhajan. In many ways, bhakti really begins at ruchi.
Right, Prabhuji. So I put a picture of a halwai who is making a condensed milk. So we are also making condensed milk. और इसमें कभी कभी हम नींबू निचोड़ देते हैं वैष्णव अपराधों का, खीर बनते बनते कुछ और बन जाता है, पनीर बन जाता है उसका. तो this is the condensed milk which is getting created here.
Not bad for a plain presentation.
So this is something which came to my mind immediately. I was trying to search for multiple pictures and I wanted a halwai in it also, because it is the halwai who's making the condensed milk. So what happens to the mind? So earlier there was forceful pulling of mind to Krishna. हम लोग forcefully pull करते थे पहले, और अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं? अब हम मतलब मैं तो इस स्टेज पे बिल्कुल नहीं हूँ. अब हम मतलब आई एम जस्ट टॉकिंग इन जनरल. आई एम प्रोबेबली एट अनस्टडी भजन or maybe sadhu sangha. So earlier forceful pulling of mind to Krishna, and now it is automatically flowing to Krishna. Automatically you're just constantly thinking of Krishna, and so that's what happens at this stage. What others might think, and there are multiple examples. Before what others might think, there are certain beautiful examples given in the book, and they are right here. So ये कुछ अच्छे वर्सेस हैं जो यहाँ पर बुक में लिखे हुए हैं. इसमें ये बताया कि ऐसा भक्त अब करता क्या है, उसकी एक्टिविटीज कैसे होती हैं. जैसे अर्जुन भी पूछता है भगवत गीता में कि भगवान बताओ ऐसा भक्त करेगा क्या. तो जो 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 इस स्टेज पर है, आसक्ति की स्टेज पर, ऐसा ऐसा व्यक्ति किस टाइप की बातें करेगा, ये कैसी एक्टिविटीज करेगा. तो बहुत ही सुंदर लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पर. अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग सीइंग अनदर डिवोटी कमिंग फ्रॉम समवेयर, ही विल बिगिन टॉकिंग. सडनली वो बात करने लग जाएगा. हे यू हैव अ शालिग्राम शिला, it in a nice case hanging from your neck. Your tongue is quivering every moment from the taste of nectar of Krishna's name as you chant softly. Seeing you like this, I, most unfortunate, feel overwhelming joy. So tell me, why are you doing these activities and what holy places have you visited? तो मतलब बहुत भक्तों से जब वो आदान प्रदान करेगा तो एक अलग लेवल का आदान प्रदान होगा वो. और वो ये तो अपने आप को तो वो समझेगा ही कि मैं अनफॉर्चुनेट हूँ, मेरा अट्रैक्शन नहीं है भगवान के नाम के प्रति, जबकि वो स्टडी भजन भी कर चुका है, उसके पास रुचि भी है, और अब वो आसक्ति की स्टेज पे आ गया है. लेकिन वो फिर भी अपने आप को और छोटा समझते हुए और लोगों से जितना ज्यादा भक्ति के बारे में सुनना चाहता है वो सब सुनने की कोशिश करेगा. और भी काफी सारे हैं. गोइंग एल्सवेयर ही विल से, वो जस्ट टुडे माय लाइफ विल बी सक्सेसफुल फॉर दिस गैदरिंग ऑफ डिवोटीज विल इमीडिएटली डिस्ट्रॉय ऑल माय सिंस. यानी अगर वो जैसे इस मीटिंग में अगर वो आता है इस जूम कॉल में, तो इस जूम कॉल में आते ही वो बोलेगा, ओ जस्ट टुडे माय लाइफ विल बी सक्सेसफुल फॉर दिस गैदरिंग ऑफ डिवोटी विल इमीडिएटली डिस्ट्रॉय ऑल माय सिंस. ऐसे सोचता हुआ आएगा, ऐसे ही इज सिंफुल. ऑल्दो निष्ठा भजन करके और रुचि आकर के अभी तक उसके शायद सिंस खत्म हो चुकी, अनर्थ निवृत्ति भी हो चुकी है उसकी उसके पहले वाली स्टेज में. लेकिन पॉइंट ये है कि फिर भी वो ऐसा सोचेगा, तो ऐसे भाव उसके अंदर आएंगे और वो बहुत जॉयफुली इन मीटिंग्स को अटेंड करेगा या वैष्णवों की गैदरिंग को अटेंड करेगा, इंस्टेड ऑफ थिंकिंग कि यहाँ मेरा टाइम वेस्ट हो रहा है, ये मीटिंग 2 घंटे क्यों चलती है, ये मीटिंग 1 घंटे में क्यों नहीं, हम लोग टाइम टू टाइम क्यों नहीं खत्म कर लेते इसको. he will have a different feeling. So there's a lot of taste in this when this is happening, and that's why they say naam nishtha is so important. One more example has been given. At being honored with affection of most learned and advanced devotee, the crown jewel of assembly, he will sit before him in a humble, crouched position and beg from him with tears in his eyes. This is a very high level stuff. So somebody meeting, say, Bhurijan Prabhu. That day, a lot of devotees heard katha from Bhurijan Prabhu the other day. So Bhurijan Prabhu से कथा सुनते हुए और उनके पास जाकर के थोड़ी देर एसोसिएशन लेना. कुछ लोग जाते हैं, कभी कभी महानिधि स्वामी से दर्शन लेके आते हैं. हम लोग गए थे तो we took his darshan, and अलग अलग devotees, and he will say, oh master, you are the remedy for material disease afflicting the 3 worlds. I am the most fallen and depraved person. Please diagnose my malady and advise me what medicine and food to take. So this is another example of how will he feel humble, how humble. Okay, so how humble he would have become, and how he would want to know what should I do. And I can think of a similar event with Sanatan Goswami. When Sanatan Goswami meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, "Ko ami."
Ke ami, ke ami.
Ke ami?
Ke ami keno amai jote tapat roy.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, that was Hansa Avatar. So Brahma बोलता है को भगवान. तो के आमी, सो के आमी में मैं कौन हूँ. तो जब ब्रह्मा बोलते हैं को भगवान हंसा अवतार का, तो हंसा अवतार बहुत सरकास्टिकली स्माइल करते हैं कि मुझसे ये मत पूछ कि मैं कौन हूँ, ये पूछ कि तू कौन है. तो यहाँ पर सनातन गोस्वामी बोलते हैं के आमी, मैं कौन हूँ. तो यहाँ पर उसी तरह से उसी ह्यूमिलिटी के साथ ये डिवोटी यहाँ पर पूछ रहा है, ओ मास्टर यू आर द रेमेडी, मुझे क्या हुआ है, आई एम अफ्लिक्टेड बाय मटेरियल डिजीज, आई एम मोस्ट फॉलन एंड डिप्रेव्ड. तो इस टाइप से वो चर्चाएं करता है. और भी बहुत सारे यहाँ पर दिए हुए हैं. विलायसी ब्रजेंद्र कुमार, अलग अलग एग्जाम्पल्स दिए हुए हैं. तो जस्ट कमिंग बैक टू द प्रेजेंटेशन अगेन. Now, because he's talking like this externally also, sometimes he'll make statements and his friends will think his intelligence is covered. इसको क्या हो गया सडनली, ये ऐसे क्यों बोलता है. वेदांता वाले सोचेंगे ये तो इडियट है बाय बर्थ, तो कुछ नहीं आता है. कर्मकांडी सोचेंगे ये गिर गया, ये पतन हो गया इसका, तो है ना, ये पता नहीं कौन सी बातें करता रहता है लाइफ में. और नॉन डिवोटी सोचेंगे इससे जरूर पैसा कमा लिया बहुत सारा, फ्री बैठा है, कुछ काम करने को नहीं है इसको, इससे बहुत सारा पैसा कमा के बैठ गया ये अब. तो अब ये इस टाइप की बातें करता है लोगों से बस जहां मिलता है. And offenders will think that, oh, this guy is pretending to be a pure devotee, so he's just a pretender. So this is how others might think. And then obviously by being in asakti and still continuing the steady bhajan, and having this condensed milk, getting more condensed slowly, he will move to bhava. And there I think His Grace Rishi Kumara Prabhu would make the presentation. Sorry, I think I went a little longer. He's talking, and Karm Kandis would think that he has fallen from purity. Non-devotee, because he's talking like this, and this is how his behavior is. He's not talking about money. He's not talking about any material endeavor. So non-devotees would think that this guy would have amassed definitely a lot of wealth. ये पैसा कमा के बैठ गया है और अब इसके पास टाइम ही टाइम है, इसलिए ये सब टाइम पास करता है, घूम रहा है ये सब बोलता हुआ. And offenders might think that this guy is just pretending to be a pure devotee.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Dayanand Prabhu. Not despite bad health and tight schedules and repeated postponements. Madhurya Kadambini ki jai. So we are the seventh cloud of mercy, seventh shore. Special thanks to Hare Krishna Prabhu for quickly patching up the presentation. He is my go-to man for most projects. He never lets me down. He does, but not always. And this was very quickly arranged, this whole presentation. I didn't have the time to prepare it because I just thought that I wasn't sure Aishwarya Krishna will come, so I might as well, we'll close the loop. We can't keep it hanging. So we are moving from asakti to bhava. Bhava is something like Nayanam galadashrudharaya vatanam gadgadruddhaya gira kulakir nichitam vapukkada tavanama grahane bhavishyati. So at bhava level, bhakti goes more from external to internal. It gets increasingly internal. So Krishna Chakravarti Thakur talks about how bhava is basically asakti in full maturity. And when you're talking about this Satchitananda, potencies of the Lord, they manifest at a preliminary level, at the level of bhava. So we discussed earlier about the bhakti creeper, and at the bhava stage is literally the blossoming of the flower of the bhakti lata. The outer layer is called as Sarvai Sudurlabha, which Rupa Goswami mentions in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, most rare. This is the characteristic of bhakti, the rarity of it. And that is why it is in the Deha Madhyam Sulabham Sudurlabham. It's only in human form of life that you can actually perform bhakti. So if you don't have a human form of life, you cannot perform bhakti. But even in bhakti, even in the human form of life, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Tatati Siddhe. Yatatam api siddhanam gachirmam veti tato. Not somebody comes to this process, of that somebody achieves perfection. In that also somebody knows Krishna in full. So therefore it is Samahatma Sudurlabha, very, very rare. The process of bhakti itself, and this is the characteristic of Bhava Bhakti when it really manifests. You could either call it a mature state of asakti or a preliminary stage of prema, whichever way you look at it. And the inner layer is moksha lagutagat, because internally the devotee does not want to perform devotion for attaining anything other than the Lord. That's the only goal. Mama Janmani Janmani Ishware comes at the level of ruchi itself. But when you say that you don't want moksha, it matures at a stage when you have bhukti, mukti, they're all standing at the doorstep, and the developed sadhaka says, I don't have time for you. I only have to perform pure devotion service. So there's a constant hankering for Krishna. So Bhaktitirtha Swami Guru Maharaj says that it is almost like at the bhava level, you have sent a fax message or an email, and it is already connected. You got mail. It's already reached the Lord, and it starts reciprocating. And then you have sanchari bhavas which arise. Sanchari bhavas, there are several sanchari bhavas. Some people say 33, some people say more. There are many bhavas that are there. And they are sometimes called Vebhichari bhavas also. They're transitory emotions that arise, and sometimes they peak, sometimes they trough. So these sanchari bhavas, they arise, various symptoms of the rasa having manifested further arise. And then there are other qualities, renunciation, tolerance, many other wonderful qualities they come. So yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tasya samasate sura. When you perform devotional service, all other qualities arise, which are there present even in demigods. So when you're at a bhava platform, by default, you don't have to endeavor that I want to develop, punctuality. I don't want to develop you don't need to. Even seemingly external qualities that are indirectly favorable for bhakti, they will naturally arise. We don't have to separately endeavor for this. So then there is Raga Utta Bhava and Vaidhi Utta Bhava. I think I got it right. No. Raga Bhakti Utta and Vaidhi Bhakti Utta Bhava. So that which is Raganuga Bhakti Utta, it is definitely stronger. It is by default therefore more condensed. And there is a certain feeling that the Lord is at an equal level. So it doesn't mean that equal doesn't mean in the sense that you consider him, you denigrate him, or that you're only dealing with bhavas. It slightly definitely goes above the level of dasya also. Although at all levels there's an element of dasya because you have to serve the Lord. But broadly, many other feelings of relationship with the Lord arise if it is coming from Raganuga Bhakti Utta. And then opulence or the awe and reverence feeling that you have for the Supreme Lord, they disappear. They are no longer so important for the sadhaka. But converse to this, or in conjunction with this, is the bhava that is arising from Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti Yukta Bhava. This is definitely lesser in strength because you already come up the hard way. And there is an element of Aishwarya mixed in the bhava that is manifesting in the sadhaka's heart. And therefore, it is not very, very condensed completely. Obviously, you may feel that something is better, Vaidhi Bhakti is not so good as Raganuga Bhakti, but that's not true. With the reciprocation of the Lord, whether it is Raganuga Bhakti or Vaidhi Bhakti, as is written here, is something that is entirely up to the Lord because He is Swarat. It is not a rule that, like earlier Dayagaranga had presented, that purity is not a mandatory element for developing asakti of bhakti. Purity is incidental, purity will come. And if there is purity, of course, it is a favorable ingredient, but it is not mandated. It is necessary, but not really sufficient. Purity may help us progress, but it's not. Bhakti in itself can develop by itself. It doesn't require, like the elephant Gajendra. What kind of purity are we talking about? So Krishna wants, or Kubja, the prostitute. There is a question of purity there coming in. Just performing the service to the Lord, performing the act of surrender to the Lord, may, in effect, awaken pure devotion service. However, the reciprocation from the Lord is being felt even at a deeper level. Initially, it is more of a mental bhajan. But now, as we progress in bhava, the devotee thinks deeply of the Lord. So the devotee thinks deeper and deeper. So the Lord reciprocates more with the devotee to the extent that he actually appears before the devotee. That is not there so much in previous levels. So here the Lord actually starts appearing before the devotee. And therefore, the devotee focuses his mind and attention in an unwavering manner towards the Supreme Lord. He doesn't deviate. So even in waking, dreaming, sleeping, all situations, he always remembers, Khaite, Saite, all situations he remembers his Supreme Lord. So then here, the bhakti is more an internal bhajan. It is not an artificial imposition anyway or in any manner. So the possessing a physical body like we have, it is more like an amnesia of our actual state. So we think that we don't know who Kayami, like he was quoting Sanatana Goswami. Who am I? We don't know. But at a previous level, you may think, Keno am I Jate Tapatrai? But at the level of Bhava, you're not bothered about Jate Tapatrai because you don't sense the Tapatrai. You don't see the impact of the threefold miseries. The devotee slowly begins to recover from this state of false identity, and in his own bhajan and reflection, he thinks extensively more about Krishna. He begins to imagine touching, hearing, smelling the Lord, etc. Seva could come to the level of, say, Manasi Bhava, at Manasi level, Manasi Seva. So he begins to experience the transcendental feeling of ecstasy to the extent that he almost feels that it has already happened completely. It may not have happened completely, but he feels that to the extent that it has actually happened. And the feeling is of laulya. There's an intense greed for more of the Lord, everything about the Lord, everything about the Lord's agents. So then, effectively speaking, if you ask me, what this means is the jiva becomes less and less of a physical entity. He operates closer to the spiritual platform, than at previous levels of sadhana. And it is mentioned clearly that there is a Swarupa Abhas, the initial, the original Swarupa of the Jiva begins to manifest at Bhava. That is very, very important. This doesn't come so much before at previous levels. But at the level of Bhava, there is Atyantiki Nivritti of all anarthas, except those which there may be a slight aparadha abhas, to the extent that, the devotee commits a Vaishnava aparadha, even from here he can fall. The tendency to commit a Vaishnava aparadha is there. But otherwise, everything else is Atyantiki Nivritti. Everything is completely gone. Sukrutu Tanartha, Dushkrutu Tanarthas. To some extent, there will be some Bhakti Tanarthas. They are also practically gone. And there may be slight tendency to commit an offense. That also is more like if you remove camphor from a box, the smell will still remain. So like that, there will be. And the devotee practically begins to live in the internal realm. It is not just an external presence. He lives more in the internal realm, and it occurs to very, very advanced Vaishnavas and saints. It happens to them. So they will practically be in a trance. You see many, like it was mentioned that when Daksha entered the assembly, Lord Shiva was practically in a trance. He was remembering. And they say that Shanidev, today is Saturday, he keeps his eye closed, not because of any other reason, because he's practically in a trance all the time, meditating on the pure devotional mellows of the Supreme Lord. So when a very advanced devotee, he goes into this trance, like Prabhupada sometimes very rarely used to go into in public. In private, he used to definitely. He would be singing Radha Madhava and then he would go completely blind. So he temporarily separates from the physical realm and he enters into the physical realm. Just like, you see many of the acharyas like Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamanand Prabhu, they feel free to enter the Nitya Leela and then come back. They do that. Enter into a trance and then they come back. So they're manjaris. So it's practically you put on a coat and then you come back. So it is there. So here, for example, they're so fully absorbed in the experience. Acharya gives the example of how Srila Madhavendra Puripad looked at a dark cloud and thought it was Krishna. He went into a trance completely. So the temporary identity of the body could not contain that particular experience. So therefore, it has to be kept aside. Inside of that. And then what happened? Sometimes devotees at an external level will not be able to relate to the world around them. They may seem crazy out even. It's to some people. It may not look very normal. But an Uttamadhikari, a normal, a more advanced devotee, what he will do is he will step down to say Madhyama platform to relate better to the environment. There are many Vaishnavas, even in ISKCON, many advanced Vaishnavas who were bewildering sometimes in their behavior. Anyway, Vaishnava clear Mudra Viketana Bhujai. But more so at the level of Bhava. And for example, is given here. When they hear anything about the Lord, they would immediately cry, jump, shout, or fall over due to the intensity of prema. Because they think everybody is devotion. There is Sarva Vishnu and Jagat, everybody is a devotee. They would know the difference between an atheist and a devotee. They would think everybody is a devotee. So they can't discriminate. Therefore, the Uttamadhikari necessarily has to step down to that platform. It is for him to preach. It happens by instruction. So here it's mentioned that if someone imbibes bhava, it looks like they're going to completely new identity. They are totally distracted. They're never distracted, They're totally not distracted by deviation of any type, including dualities of existence or the three modes of nature. And we discussed how it is a Swarupa Abhas. Now, you may think that externally many people cry, laugh, and everything. And some of them are called Sahajiya. They're very cheap. So what do you know? How do you know the difference between Sahajiya and a person at a Bhava platform? Can anyone say?
Prabhuji, can we take example of Haridas Thakur during Anant Chaturdashi?
Hmm.
When that other gentleman came and he also tried to enact in the same way. He was beaten by a stick and he ran away. That is Sahajya probably.
No, that is true. But so what is the difference?
Okay.
What is the difference between somebody who's genuinely situated at the level of Bhava and somebody who's
Hare
pretending?
Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, the 9 symptoms of Bhava, Shanti and then Avyakta Kala.
So what does that mean? Make it simpler. Good point. Good point. So make it very simple. How do I know you are at Bhava and that you are not pretending?
By his behavior,
How do I know you are not at Bhava?
We won't be able to identify. We should ask Guru or seniors. Maybe.
Fine. So how will they identify?
Exhibiting bodily symptoms, Prabhuji.
That's why that's the whole point, no? That sometimes people may even behave in a manner. How do you know it's a real thing?
They try to attract the people, Prabhuji. Sahajas try to attract the people.
But that's something that is an afterthought for us, no? That we assume that he is doing this for attention-seeking behavior. But in a general behavioral characteristic itself, what's the single biggest difference?
They try to imitate, artificially imitate the
chanting of the holy names.
Sorry?
Chanting of
Yes, very good.
holy names.
Very good. Prabhupada used to do chanting of the holy names, and also he used to do many other activities. Sahajiyas will just come, dance, go. Don't expect them to do service. Don't expect them to sit and chant with the devotees, follow the principles, anything. You will know over a period of time. I still remember in our temple, there was a professor who used to come. Every morning he would dance like this. He would keep dancing. Whole day, whole kirtana. It's an amazing person and he's doing it for so many months, I used to think. The devotees had a nickname for him called Titli. It was like a butterfly, he was moving around like this. So this is like almost 10 years back. And now he's nowhere there. Nobody knows where he is. He was some professor. I don't know if he's connected to Bhakti or not even. Disappeared. So how steady are they in their sadhana? How steady are they in their practices? In the day-to-day activities of Krishna consciousness? It's not so much how they portray themselves. Because you can pull it off. Like I thought for 2-3 years this person was coming. Believe it or not. It was amazing. Once in a while you can cheat, but this guy is very consistent, I used to think. So we don't know. The biggest distinguishing factor from a genuine devotee and a Sahajiya, because like some of you already said, like Devadas Mataji said and others said that if you are really at that level, someone reaches a level, they're not supposed to display it publicly and create a disturbance. Because a person at a Bhava platform would never want to disturb another person's devotional service. A public display will cause people to become more fascinated with some of the symptoms or expressions rather than the develop of the internal consciousness. So it's all external then, attention-seeking behavior. So then what will happen is people who have not cleansed themselves fully internally, there is no Chetodarpanam, they will start imitating these people. So then what will happen that they would try to gain respect like this and so such an advanced devotee. So there is no real bhakti or near real symptoms. It's a disturbance. That is why they say Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Vidindina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktru Utpata Eva Kalpate. It's Utpata. They will finally cause so much mayhem in society. However, people at Bhava platform, they deal with people at Bhava platform or people higher than that. There's no need to be diplomatic. It is just like sometimes we are told in Bhakti also, if you have some friends with whom you can be truly yourself, you don't have to hold yourself back. Like, I may be speaking with Hare Krishna Prabhu in a particular way, but I may be dealing with, say, somebody else in a particular way based on the level of friendship we have. I may be engaging more in Preeti Lakshanam of a certain type of people whom I'm closer to than with people with whom I have to maintain a certain respectful distance, or who will have to maintain some respectful distance for me for whatever reason. So there's no need to be diplomatic otherwise. So therefore, those who are really at the Bhava platform, they're very merciful. They check themselves in order to avoid causing harm to immature people. Like Krishna himself says, if I don't perform my activities, the whole world will come into ruin. I have to set an example. So similarly, the people at the level of Bhava are like that. They have to set an example of behavior, because there are so many advanced Vaishnavas in our movement today. Do you think they're just Vaigi Bhaktas or simple sadhakas who are following just 1604 relative principles? They're also setting an example for us by their exemplary behavior. They may be internally at a completely different realm. This we should know. So, then what will happen is, if they act in an exemplary manner, those who are influenced by them, inspired by them, they will also gradually decrease their involvement with material nature and the material energy. And these sadhakas, these advanced sadhakas, would not want to hurt the bhakti creeper, or the progress of the bhakti creeper of these neophytes or relatively newer devotees. So, in other words, जो कीमत चुकाना है वो कीमत चुकाना है. I don't want you to, if I am an advanced devotee, I wouldn't want somebody to just get it cheap. I want them to understand the process and do it properly. So they won't be able to get it cheap. So the price has to be paid. Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam kodijanna sukrtina labhyate. The laulyam has to be displayed, the activity, the desire for the process has to be displayed, and therefore it has to be done. Therefore, nobody would want to discourage the spiritual progress of somebody down the line that way. So here it's mentioned that when Prabhupada would associate with his devotees, with his god brothers like Akinchan Krishnadas, Bhavaji Maharaj, or others, his mood will be completely different. You would find them even like he went and once he went and spoke with Bimala Prasad Mashai, the not Bimala Prasad Mashai, Lalita Prasad Mahashai, the brother of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. And they were like completely cracking jokes in Bangla and laughing and all that stuff. Totally bewildering. But Prabhupada would say something about the Gaudiya Math in Mayapur, and when his own disciples would try to pass some judgment or comment, Prabhupada would say, this is not for you. So at that level, once in Vrindavan, so there is a very person wearing tattered dress. He wanted to see Prabhupada. So the devotees totally stopped him, saying that, so many people wanted to see Prabhupada. He's not like an animal in a zoo. So once when I think probably Brahmanand Prabhu, whoever, he was not on guard, this Babaji snuck in. He snuck into Prabhupada's enclosure. So then both of them offered obeisances to each other. They embraced each other, and they started interacting like children, in a very children-like mood, very similar, just like almost like cowherd boys or something. In a very giddy, humorous way, they were talking. So the god was really embarrassed. So he had offended a very, very advanced sadhu. So therefore, externally, we can't also quickly decide who is what. But for us, the idea is, therefore, to follow the process with dedication and determination. We have to keep doing that. So we receive guidance from Guru Sadhu Shastra. And when we follow the guidance that we receive from them in the correct way, then gradually our experiences will move away from the spiritual to more spiritual, from physical to spiritual. And then we begin to reflect further, introspect, contemplate more on our devotion. And then we develop a higher taste, like Vishya Nivartana, Raharasavena, Rasavartyam Rasopisa, Paramdrishtva Nivartate. You start developing higher taste gradually by following the process. So then when that happens, that it's mentioned that bhava can be experienced at varying level of sweetness at each of the levels of the 5 types of rasa that are exchanged with the Lord, which is Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So rasa starts gradually evolving at bhava and then matures finally at prema stage. So in one line, if you look at what is bhava, it is finally the awakening of devotion from an internal realm more than an external display of devotion. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So any
Prabhuji, I have one question here.
Hmm.
Now, there's already so much going on in the head.
Hmm.
While we're chanting and now what's happening is we're learning of these stages as well.
Hmm.
So it's and then there is another book called Bhajan Rahasya, which we may want to study, and after this, and then we may want to study something more, and then we want to study something, and we'll get more and more, Sorry, I've kept my video off because I'm lying down and talking. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Better to speak lying down than lying when you are speaking.
Right, Prabhuji. Your puns are punishing as always. So Prabhuji, I was just wondering, Prabhuji, now what's happening is a lot of information is coming into our head. And as it is, the mind is not stable when we are chanting, we are thinking of all of this. Now we'll think more and we'll consciously think more, hey, which stage I am and where am I going and all of this. So while this is an amazing book, and while we are studying right now, we're loving it more and more, all of us. I'm loving it more and more. And I studied it more when I missed few classes, but a lot of classes. But when I read it, it was
that's probably why you're relishing it. If you had attended my class, maybe you would not have liked it so much.
No, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, I was just wondering that should we read scripture? Should we just chant? Or should we chant certain number of rounds, 16 rounds minimum, and just do service in the temple? Or should we chant? Sometimes people say that you do services, your guru engages you in various services, including deity worship, etc., because you cannot chant so many rounds. And you don't have taste for chanting. So
What's your question? What's your question?
The question is that should we just be chanting and become namnisht and or should we do little bit of this, little bit of that, and also read these books and get so much in the head which might still keep your mind quivering.
If you have a life that is purely based on what like Bhugarbha Goswami or Lokanath Goswami had, when you have nothing else to do, then and you can chant for 24 hours or 22 hours or 20 hours, then it's fine. But because we don't chant for so long and not with the level of intensity and determination that otherwise would be expected, many of us are still at the level of mantra akshara. We are not even chanting mantra. We're only doing akshara, jalpana. So at that stage, to assume that we will gain perfection by just the holy name, although the holy name by itself is sufficient, just by our endeavors to chanting the holy name will be sufficient, may not be an appropriate thought process, because there are sufficient distractions for us beside the holy name. It is not like you're only chanting. You also have to manage your office work. You also have to manage your family. Family doesn't mean just the spiritual part of it, even the physical maintenance part of it, the emotional part of it. So while doing all this, how does one retain the consciousness? If one has the right amount of, if one has the right intensity of japa and the reciprocation from Krishna, then it is another matter. But till the time that arises, there are all these activities that are provided in this society of devotees by Prabhupada, the spiritual sandwich, so that there is no aperture for Maya to enter. It is not like now you are only directly dealing with Krishna. Everything is fine, all settled. Now it's just me and Krishna, and I will chant and I'll go back to God. there is so much coming into it. There's a deluge of anarthas, there's a deluge of distractions that are hitting us in the day-to-day life. So in this particular situation, Krishnartha Akila Cheshtita is very, very critical. And the holy name is very, very important. But it is not like the Goswamis only chanted for 20 hours. Raghunath Das Goswami was chanting 2 lakh names. But he was also offering 1,000 dandavats to Vaishnavas. He was also writing book literature. He was also taking care of deities wherever he could. Or for that matter, Rupa Goswami Pad and Sanatan Goswami Pad and all the Goswamis. Nana Shastra Vicharaneka Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako. So does that mean that only studying scripture is enough? Because that is also said about the Goswamis. But it is also said Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Natipi Kalavasani Kruto. Would that be enough? No. Not. Herade Vrajadevi Kechalade Henanda Sunokuta. Because they were instructed to look and revive the places of pastimes of Krishna. So service to Guru is also important. So the main criteria for us is that whatever tasmat sarvam prayatnena gurumeva prasade. Whatever we are doing as sadhakas should be for the pleasure of the spiritual master. Whatever that may be. Somebody like my senior, Murlisham Prabhu, he has a congregation of almost 4,000 people online daily. And many 15,000 people connected to him indirectly. He's not staying in one temple. He's traveling all the time, various services he has. He's part of ISKCON's legal department, monitoring committee. And he remembers every single document that has been filed in one of our Supreme Court matters. But he also chants. He also gives his, maintains his congregation, helps them, nourishes them, grows them. He's bringing a congregation of 1,500 people to Braj in February. And he recently came to Govardhan with me. I was doing my own little thing, and he did 2 parikramas. First day, 1 parikrama, next day, another parikrama. So the point is, like Mohan Rupa Prabhu says, and I've quoted many times, jitna gud daloge, utna meetha banega. If you're able to chant all the time, very good. But since we are not able to chant all the time, there are so many other activities that are provided in this society to engage us. In order to develop, by performing these services, we will develop taste for the holy name. And by developing taste for the holy name, we'll be able to perform these services for the pleasure of the Lord. So it is a mutually reciprocal relationship. Is it okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. This clarifies a lot, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Like you're lying down and attending class, right? Typically in a morning class, you're not supposed to lie down. But our movement is Yukta Vairagya. It is better to lie down and listen to a class rather than, sit up and sleep in class.
Right.
Far
Prabhuji.
better. Like Prabhupada said, sleep for 8 hours, but don't sleep in Bhagavatam class.
Ji, Prabhuji.
So this is good. It is making the best use of a bad bargain. That is what it is for us at Sadhana Bhakti.
Right, Prabhuji.
Any other questions? I'm happy to see some devotees from my courses which I conduct. They're also here. Dr. Preeti Sharma, Kamal Prabhu, they're also there. And my old regulars from online classes, Radhanaga Mataji, Rati Manjari Mataji, Vedi Dasi Mataji was here, I thought. I wasn't sure. My dear Swadhyaya Prabhu is here. So several others. And of course, all of us from Sector 45. Who else has a question? Or Sannata. So, okay, we still have about half an hour. So now we'll discuss Krishna Prema. Bharati Mataji, you want to get into that?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, I went to a little bit because I just thought I want to put a few things in perspective. Please forgive me for eating into your time.
Am I audible, Prabhuji?
So far.
Prabhuji, I have to share the presentation from my phone. I may not be visible because the presentation will be played only in the gadget which has the same app.
No problem. As long as you're audible, we are okay.
Can I share?
I can share your presentation, Madhurya. I have it. So,
But
Oh, very
that
good.
will not be played because you don't have that app from which I have prepared it.
anyways, I am able to open that. So the presentation that you shared with me. Let me do it.
What was it? Where did you prepare it? Which app?
From phone, Prabhuji. I
That is
found an app from Play Store.
it's a-
Anyways, it's a PowerPoint. So this is the one that you shared with me, right?
What is that one on Mac? I forgot the name. So beautiful. I forgot. I remember.
Keynote.
working on it. Keynote. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Extremely high. It is like PowerPoint is a bacha compared to it. Yeah. Please go ahead.
I can't see, Prabhuji.
You can't see. I am sharing.
Please apply the ointment of love.
Krishna Prabhu, your screen is not visible. It's still Prabhuji's screen.
The same.
I've stopped sharing.
Okay. So let me share again.
No, with me 1 second.
We are still seeing Prabhu.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing. Now you can.
Now we are seeing you. Yes, ma'am.
It is because of my intervention. Unwarranted. Prema, the 8 shot of nectar. Yes.
Prabhuji, is this the one which I shared just 2 minutes ago?
This is the one that you shared. I think last week.
उसमें मैंने थोड़ा सा चेंजेस किया प्रभुजी आपने जो अभी किया वो शेयर करें
जो आपने अभी किया है माता जी उसके लिए आपको मेरे को एक्सेस देना पड़ेगा आपने गूगल ड्राइव के थ्रू शेयर किया है सो
कोई बात नहीं प्रभुजी हम थोड़ा आगे पीछे कर लेंगे
अभी आप यही कर दीजिए
No, what you do is let this go on. Additional points you talk from your mobile.
नहीं प्रभुजी थोड़ा सा मैंने स्क्रीन आगे पीछे किया था नंबर
अच्छा
So, my topic for presentation is Prema by HG Rishi Kumara. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Krishna Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Deve Saurvani Pracharani Nirvishesh Shunnyavadi Paschatya Deshkaya Nityam Karoti Vacharam Pangam Yanga Devam Tattatmaham Vande Shri Gurum Deem Karana Parmaman Madhurya So, this topic is far beyond my understanding. Still, I will discuss what I have read from the book, that I have heard from Vaishnava. This is Prema by HG Rishi Kumara. Next slide, Prabhuji.
That's the only problem with this.
Next, Prabhuji, next slide.
Hare Krishna.
We see in Bhakti Lata creature, the two leaves.
Creeper, not creature.
Creeper. Bhakti Lata creeper, the two leaves which first sprouted in the form of Kleshagni and Sikda. There are further leaves, and then buds are created in the form of Asakti, and then further more flowers in the form of Bhav, and finally we get Prema, the fruit, the fruit of Bhakti. And a very astonishing thing in Bhakti is that although the Bhakti is transformed into Prema now, the devotee has the symptoms of Prem, still Bhav is there, still Asakti is there, and it is shining more beautifully. Next slide, please. So we see that Prema is the fruit of the Bhakti Lata creeper. And next. And the leaves, buds, flowers, and fruits of the Bhakti Lata creeper is still present even when Prema is there.
You've done a lot of hard work.
Next study.
Pictorial slides.
So there are what are the symptoms that we see in the devotee who has Prema. The first is the Sandrananda, concentrated bliss. We see that in the Bhava stage there was bliss, but in this stage Prema, the bliss is more concentrated. It is Sandrananda, and it has the power to attract Krishna.
I think it's Sandrananda. There is no A after D. Sandra is condensed here.
Sandrananda.
Sandrananda Visheshatma.
And this is Krishna Akarshini. And Krishna becomes the servant of the devotee who has Prema in their heart. So Krishna
just
becomes
check, is it Radha Madhav's photo is covering, is it Sri Krishna Akarshini or just Krishna Akarshini?
Krishna Akarshini, Sri Krishna Akarshini. Okay, Prabhuji. So, and there is great possessiveness of Krishna, the devotee, and greed for Krishna increased so much. For example, we see in gopis, and they face so many obstacles when they were going to meet Krishna. Still, there was so much greed for Krishna that they overcomes all the obstacles. And then there is momentary appearance of Krishna gave rise to more greed. Like Krishna is not there, but they have so much love for Krishna, and all of a sudden Krishna appears and he disappears, and this gives so much greed to love Krishna, and increase of longing for the Lord and bestowal of more bliss. So much bliss is there in Prema, an appearance of Krishna in all the senses. And Krishna appears in Prabhuji, please this 10th slide.
10th
one. Yeah. So you see that Krishna first reveals his beautiful form for the eyes, and then devotee gets fainted, and then again he reveals his fragrance for the nose, and again he gets fainted, and then he reveals his voice for the ears. He touches the devotee, revealing his youthfulness, and he reveals his taste for those in Madhurya Rasa. So 5 times, 5th time, again the devotee gets fainted by seeing the love of Krishna. Next. Next. And then he reveals his beauty, fragrance, touch, sound, touch, and taste simultaneously. All the senses, all the same thing appears simultaneously. This is Adarya. And then he bestows Kripa Shakti so that the devotee can experience all the Lord's qualities. So Kripa Shakti is given by the Lord. Previous page, 9th one. 8th. So there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 6th chapter, verse number 17, where Narad Muni is, that is the conversation of Narad Muni to Vyasadev. Narad Muni is telling Vyasadev, that is, Premabati, Prematibhar, Nirbhimna, Ulkango, Ati, Nirvrita, Ananda Samplave Lina, Napashyam, Ubhayam Mune. The translation is, O Vyasadev, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. And Narad Muni is explaining how he came into bhakti, how he became Narad. So in this, he is telling how he had the symptoms of prema. Next, Prabhuji, 12th one. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 2, verse number 40, Narad Muni is giving instructions to Vasudev Ji on Bhagavad Dharma. And here he says, Evam Vrata Swapriya Nama Kirtya.
Chant it in Brahma Samhita.
Prabhuji, can you start?
Evam
Then I
vratasva
will.
priya nama kirtya jatanurago drutachitta uchai asatyato rodi dirodi gayatyunmadavan rityati lokabhyaha.
The translation is, by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord. It starts by chanting the holy name of the Lord. He comes to the stage of love of Godhead. And then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord. And he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see that everything starts from chanting attentively. And as his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, or he is indifferent to public opinion. So in this stage, Prema, sometimes he dances, sometimes he laughs very loudly, he cries, he shouts. We see in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how sometimes he dances and sometimes he is shouting, where is Krishna? He cries. Next thing. With each meeting, devotee experienced highest bliss, and with each separation, he experienced greatest pain. And devotee cannot tolerate so much pain. So, in this pain stage, sometimes, eventually, the devotee attains a spiritual body in the spiritual world, and he gives up this material body. So, there are many stages we read in which, next. We read in Madhurya Kadambini, that is in nectar devotion, the same verse is given. Ado Shabda Tato Shadi Sangeta Bhajan Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritti Sat Tato Nishta Tato Ruchi Tata Satis Tata Saktis Tato Bhava Tata Prema Titanchati Sadhakanam Ayam Premna Pradur Bhave Bhavet Krama. Now there are many stages, and that is from Shraddha to Sadhu Sang, Bhajan Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Ishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and finally the fruit is Prema. And there are further stages after Prema. It still didn't end. Doesn't end. Next is after Prema, there are Sneha. Next is after Prema, there is Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, and Bhava, which is more condensed love of God. Mahabhav is experienced only by gopis. Gopis only feel this Mahabhav stage. So we see that we have so many attachments. Next video.
Just one sec. I'm not very sure about this thing. I may probably go and take prasadam, then I'll take it later. But I might want something else also in the afternoon. We have to go to Gurgaon. Not now. We'll just check in the afternoon or evening. And of the Mahabhava among gopis, only one person has the most epitome of the Mahabhava, which is Adhiruda Mahabhava. That is there only in Srimati Radharani. And for that is what we found in Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is Radha Bhava Diti Suvalitam. You have the Radha Bhava. Radhar Mahima Premirasa Sima. He had that. Yeah. Go ahead. Go to the yeah, okay. There's one slide before that, no? Before 16, just show once. That is your stages of okay. Then okay, then that okay. So we're going in sequence now. Okay.
So we see that there are two types of ahankar. It is ahanta and mamata. Ahanta means concept of I have, I want this. मुझे चाहिए, मुझे ये करना है, मुझे वहाँ जाना है. We want that. मुझे क्या खाना है, taste and everything. And another is mamata. We see that selfishness. That is mine and mine. And this results in bondage. Because of this only, we are here in this material world. But when we apply the same ahankar to Krishna, that is connection to devotees and Krishna, then we get prema. That is next Guruji. And this same ahankar is directed towards Krishna. That is, I am the servant of Krishna, and possessiveness to Krishna and devotees. Then it gives prema, love of Godhead. And finally, we see in various stages what we have seen. That is, in Shraddha stage, our attraction to matter, that is material attachment, is authenticity so much. Then we have Shraddha stage. But attraction to Krishna was Gandha, very little. But in Sadhu Sang, when there is, जब हम भक्तों के association में आते हैं, then there is little decrease in attraction to matter, but attraction to Krishna increases. Chandra Gandha increases little. The same way, जब हम भजन क्रिया करते हैं, chanting करते हैं, in that way, attraction to matter decreases to Puna, and attraction to Krishna increases. Ekdesh Vartani. And in Nishtha stage,
It has to be very carefully mentioned because this will look like at the state of bhajana kriya, attraction to matter is purna. It's actually detachment from matter is purna.
Detachment from matter, yes.
That has to be very clearly brought out.
Decreasing in every stage.
Or maybe an arrow at the top will help. An arrow, reverse arrow, and arrow will help. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
And in same way, in Ruchi stage, the detachment from matter increases. That is Bahudesh Vartani. Right? And attachment to Krishna increases to Dayaki. And at Shakti stage, now it is decreasing to very detachment to matter is increased to so much that there is only Gandh in case of very little attraction for matter, that is Gandh, and in Bhav stage it is only Abhav. But for Krishna, there is attachment for Krishna is increasing day by day, and in Prema stage it is Param Atyantiki.
Just one question. It's not detachment to matter in the second column. It should be attachment, because otherwise at Shraddha stage, detachment is in Atyantiki stage cannot be said. It's attachment at the fullest level. So Atyantiki is attachment, not detachment. Am I right, or am I missing something?
No, you're correct. You're correct. You're correct. You're correct. But what I wanted to point out was attachment to matter is decreasing increasingly, starting from Shraddha to Prema.
Yes.
That's the point I wanted to highlight. So the arrow has to necessarily show like this. But as you go up the ladder, your attachment to matter will decrease.
Correct. Thank you.
And detachment from matter increases. So this was what I read in the book, and I presented the same.
And we are impressed.
And if you can add, Prabhuji, please.
See, one important thing that we have to understand is that for most people, prema, the general understanding is that prema will manifest only when one leaves the body. It is after we leave the body and we enter into the spiritual world that prema actually manifests. So, just imagine a large wild elephant is in the middle of an intense fire that sometimes burns his body. He's in a crazed state, he's struggling for life. Then all of a sudden there is a tremendous torrential rainpour that is happening and it extinguishes the fire. Just imagine how it will be. So quite similarly, our body is on fire due to excessive sense gratification. Shoka, moha, bhaya, lust, anger, everything. Intoxication, enviousness. All these disturbance, they come from our own mind. Apart from this, we suffer from adhyatmika, adi bhautika, adi daivika, all these kleshas. Then these are all there. So, because of samsara, we are undergoing all these tribulations. then all of a sudden, it just becomes a thing of the past. It is as if he simply walked through from one door, the door of one room into another. Then these miseries will no longer harm us. Like earlier we discussed about how Kleshagni and gradually each one of them comes in. What is the second one? It is Kleshagni and Shubhada.
Shubhada.
So it bestows auspiciousness and distress don't bother us. Or like, somebody is sick, he's been taking just medicines, bland, frugal food. Suddenly he's given a feast. So this is, you get in a huge feast after a fast or a sickness or an austere diet. What is the feeling? So then our Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives these examples or analogies to indicate how we move from a mood of great desperation to greater fulfillment, satiation, satisfaction. That is what happens at the level of prema. So you get an audience with the Supreme Lord. Like Mataji already beautifully explained how first is the form, and then gradually each one of the senses of the devotees and the mind, they become one practically. So then he sees the Lord's exquisite beauty, smells his fragrance, he can feel him, feel his touch fully. So then what happens is the devotee completely is paralyzed. He's quivering, he's weeping. All the symptoms come in. The sattvika bhavas, they all awaken in a person. So then, and with each increasing awakening of ecstasy in the devotee, the Lord gradually, like you are opening one curtain after another or opening one door after another, the Lord gradually opens one ambrosial attribute after another, nectarian attribute after another. First he gives a form, then maybe he'll give the physical fragrance, then it attracts immediately the devotee's sense of smell. So then all the devotees, everything withdraws from the sight and then focus more on the smell. So this is how intense it gets. It's nothing like what we have known. Nothing like what we have known. And so therefore, we owe it to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, and our Acharyas of the Gaudiya Sampradaya to have revealed this ultimate goal of human existence. I mean, it's so cheap when we ask people, why are you here and what is your purpose of life? And people give these weird examples and purposes of life. I still remember, I shared this with you once. I was in a presentation long back in my when I was working, and one of my colleagues said, maybe for me self-actualization comes by watering the plants. Just see where society is stuck. And we are looking at something at such a high stratum. It's way beyond what we can ever conceive. So this is possible because Krishna is non-different from Krishna Prem. Krishna Prem means Krishna. And whatever we have done, just like in Ishopanishad, the prayer comes, Kritos smara kritam smara, kritos smara kritam smara. Please don't forget whatever I have done for you, my Lord. So the Lord doesn't forget. Lifetime after lifetime, the endeavors that we have put in, Krishna remembers. And he keeps a beautiful account and starts reciprocating exponentially to each one of them. So Acharyas say that Krishna is not speaking to those who have not made these sacrifices, which are necessary for developing the qualification, to develop the patrata. So we pray to Srimati Tulsi Devi in the morning that Ei nivedanadara shakir anugata karo, Sheva adhikaradiya karo nijidasi. In our constitutional position to serve the Supreme Lord, to serve the Vaishnavas, we need shakir anugata. This is ragatmika bhakti, which is practiced by the advanced devotees. And in their path, we follow the raga anuga bhakti, which is following them. But be that is may, our whole process is to be Rupanugas and Prabhupadanugas. Follow the path of bhakti that has been developed to us. We should have the conviction that Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krito Hai. By performing devotion, everything is fulfilled. And by following this process, I will be able to attain the goal. And Srila Prabhupada says, everything I have to say is there in my books. I've already said everything in my books. We should be convinced about that. Study them, understand them, preach from them, and distribute them. Marathon is coming up now. So we should utilize that opportunity also. We must understand how developing Krishna Prem is so intrinsically related to how we take up difficult services for Krishna. Like Mother Yashoda became mother of Krishna because she could purchase anxiety for Krishna. We keep saying this point. Just after Kartika especially, we have this meditation. So we have to take that little extra for Krishna, and that will eventually awaken the creeper of love, which is the purpose of our human existence, not something smaller. So the devotee keeps on at this level. He senses the presence of Krishna. In other words, he is Krishna conscious. He no longer has any doubts about the illusions of material involvements. So whatever he's got through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra are now manifesting, whatever he's been told. Meaning they're all converging and they're getting reciprocation from Krishna. How is that possible? Oh, so whatever I've done is true. It's a vindication, validation of what we've been taught. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has therefore given a very detailed study of the obstructions on the path of our individual and collective devotion service. He has also given us the various stages, the subtle outline of the stages till prema. Now, what is our challenge as sadhakas and as leaders in ISKCON? It is that we have to fully use what the acharyas have given us, including what Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur has given, what Prabhupada has given. So we are so fortunate that we have such great blueprints or SOPs laid out by our acharyas and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, etc. So what is the purpose? This will help us finally to awaken the purpose of life, which is Krishna Prem. Although we know that the real natural position of every living entity is the total intoxication of being completely in love. Our entire experience is based on the highest expression of love and on fully receiving Krishna's highest offering and association of love. Madhurya Kadambini Mahakali ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, what I would like you to do is to club together all these 8 presentations in a single one when you have the time. Before next week, you can post it on the group. So everybody has the entire Madhurya Kadambini presentation.
Okay, bro.
That will be useful for everyone. And you can post it on the usuals group also. Or if you're not there on that, Swadhyaya Prabhu can post it. Once you get the PPT, put it on the usuals group.
Okay,
let people benefit. It's fine. But please remember that you have to give the reference or credit Hare Krishna Prabhu that it's based on the translation by Bhanuswami Maharaj of Madhurya Kadambini.
Okay, bro.
We have to give him credit. So that's the point. Okay, we have time for maybe one question. Romil Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Prabhuji, just in this last slide on Prema, there was one point which was talking about possessiveness towards Krishna and devotees. How it is practically seen?
In terms of our reciprocation with services, that I will at all costs not give up my service. At any cost, whatever it may be, I will continue chanting the name of the Lord. Whatever happens, I will continue with the process of devotion. That is one. But at a deeper level, it just means that whatever relationship I have, which has been awakened at the level of Bhava itself, with the Supreme Lord, The level of bhava itself, you know what is your relationship with the Supreme Lord. You will act in that relationship. And through that relationship, you would try to serve Krishna, please Krishna, and attract Krishna. That will become your undeviated goal. And then Krishna starts reciprocating. And because you have a personal exchange with Krishna, you can even make demands on Krishna. Now we can't. It's something to be practiced at a very, very advanced level at Krishna Prema, way beyond what many of us are situated at. Does it make sense? Not that you can't ask these questions or I can't think about these questions. It is just that it is something that we'll be able to realize only at a far higher level of condensed love, except that we need to understand that currently we are acting as a sadhaka, then we'll be acting practically as a siddha. Sadhana is towards siddhi. There will be operating at siddha platform. At a siddha platform, you have a personal relationship with Krishna which you have awakened. So suppose you have Vatsalya Bhava, you have a right to deal with Krishna that way. And similarly as a friend, as Sakya, and so on and so forth. Yeah?
It is possessiveness with respect to the relationship with the God.
Possessiveness with relationship with absolutely in connection with the relationship with the Lord. Not that you're envious of somebody else and say nobody else will serve Krishna. Brajabhava, yeah, if I understood that's probably what you're trying to ask. Like sometimes we say that no, I am involved in DT Seva. I don't want anybody else to do it on that day. I had a god brother who said that he has made some sankalpa that every day he will do Sandhya Arati. Then it made him understand that, boss, you are a pujari, you can't say that there are other people who want to serve also. It is not your personal private temple. So the temple belongs to Prabhupada and everybody has to serve. So that is the difference. In fact, the Vraja Bhava or at Krishna Prema, you would want everybody to serve. And your possessiveness that I will not miss my service. I will continue doing my services, but at the same time, I will encourage everybody to also serve.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hare
Krishna. So we'll close for the day. And Hare Krishna Prabhu, you're supposed to get back to me on something. Is that a no or a yes?
Bro, let me call you after the class.
Yeah, okay, fine. Rati Manjari Mataji, you have something to say? Ask.
Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Barely.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, Namaste Pranam. Thank you for the class. Prabhuji, I put my question on the chat.
Oh, okay, you have. Let me just check. Generally, the understanding is that devotee doesn't achieve prema in the body, but it is said that having fructified, the love of God having fructified, he on leaving the body, he goes into one universe where Krishna's pastimes are manifest. From there, he gets promoted directly to the spiritual world afterwards, at the end of that birth. So that's the process. But there are Nitya Siddhas who come down. So they can definitely be at prema. And in extreme cases, if Krishna wants to bestow prema in the body, who can stop him? Because prema is not something that can be manifested by our will. What to speak about prema, even ruchi, nishta, none of this can happen at our own will. Krishna has to reciprocate. So yes, it is possible. But in general, the rule that is given, is that prema manifests after the end of the material body. Because the body cannot contain prema. We saw what happened to Mahaprabhu. Suddenly the joints would disappear. He would become like a pumpkin. All that, how is it possible now? Our body will not be able to contain the symptoms of prema. Therefore, for our own safety, it doesn't manifest when we are in this body. Yeah. Okay, Kamal Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, am I audible?
Yeah.
Thanks all devotees for the nice, wonderful presentation for the Madhurya Kadambini. Just want to answer, check with you. So which book can we refer to for this Madhurya Kadambini? I want to read in detail. So which book can?
So there is Madhurya Kadambini itself translated by Bhanuswami Maharaj.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you can pick it up from there is an online version available. You can take it up.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you.